Hello everybody, Hellcracks here, and welcome to another Mercenary Thoughts from the Inner Sphere, episode 425. And today we're going to be talking about the Orion IIC, the Kerensky mech designed by Clan Wolf that pretty much is like the standard Orion, but with some upgrades. Alright, so we got a 460 mech, has Indosteel and ferrofibrous armor with maximum armor of 230, or was it 12 tons of ferrofibrous armor, just 1 point short of maximum, which is okay. We have 12 double heat sinks, so it keeps it cool, and just a standard engine. Alright, so that's the good thing. Now, we have a Gauss rifle in the right torso, with 2 tons of ammunition, so it can go 16 turns. Then we have an LRM-20 in the left arm, up on the shoulder, with 3 tons of ammo. And then we have an SRM-4 in the left torso, with a ton of ammo, which is more than enough. And then we have an ER large laser in the right arm and left arm. So firepower-wise, not too bad. The only thing I wish it could have had was one more heatsink. So, but that would have probably came at the expense of the LRM-20. So if you would have dropped down the LRM-20 down to 3 tons or 2 tons of ammo from 3, then you could have put another cooler on. That would have gave it 26 points of cooling agent, which would have been nice to have, but you know, you can't have everything. So the thing about the Orion, it's not a bad mech. At times it can be very hot just because, you know, you got 2 ER large lasers and a LRM-20 and then a Gauss rifle. You fire that thing. If you're not moving, you're up 7 on the heat scale, chunk, and you're like, wow, that's running hot. So, yeah, really not in your favor to fire all your long-range weapon systems. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, you might consider using a ER large and then the LRM-20 together, that's 18, and the Gauss rifle's 19, and if you run, that's 21. Then you're running pretty dang cool. So you don't have to worry about things. Then you can throw in if you get closer, then you can throw in the SRM-4 into the mix. So basically, you're running around with an ER large laser that's just kind of a spare. Even though it's 25 out for your range, it's one of those things where, okay, when you're looking at targets way out there in the distance, you get the 2 ER large lasers. If you're not moving, it's not an issue. You can dissipate all the heat. Or you can go 2 turns firing those 2 weapon systems and, you know, start plinking away with 10-point shots at your target at a decent range, which is the nice thing about it. Now, when you get in closer, then you really start looking at that LRM-20. Now, the interesting thing is that typically with an LRM-20, the average roll is going to be a 12 for damage output. So it's a little bit better than the ER large laser. So you probably will be kicking that in as soon as it gets in range, to be honest. So that's where suddenly you got an extra weapon system that's kind of just hanging around, and then you got the Gauss rifle will kick in at 22. So 21, 22 is when you swap over to your Gauss rifle and your LM-20, and then your 1 ER large laser to keep yourself running cool. Obviously, when you get in close, you will be firing the LRM-20, the SRM-4, and the Gauss rifle, and throwing in the extra weapon system. So in the grand scheme of things, you're not running too hot if you balance things out. Now, on the third turn, if you're firing those 2 ER large lasers, you can do that for 2 turns if you're running, 4 turns if you're walking. And then you got to think about, okay, do I want to heat up to 5 and start losing movement and become a 3-5 mover? Or not fire something else and cool off, like I said before, where you can run the other weapon systems like the LRM-20 and the Gauss rifle and an ER large, and then you're running cool with no problems. So that's something you got to think about. And that's pretty balanced in that aspect. So there's only times when you have to worry about the heat with this mech. Now, the battle value is just short of 2,400. So you're like 8 points short of 2,400. So it will find itself places amongst a lot of your games. And being that it's a Kerensky mech, it's like the grandfather of the clans, it's not really considered a second line mech. It's kind of like an honor mech in some ways, especially with Clan Wolf. So if you're playing Clan Wolf, feel obliged to throw in an Orion IIC, because hey, you got the place of honor. The great captain of the clans had one, the general. So it wouldn't be a dishonor to be running in an Orion IIC. Just say that. Now, how you basically use this thing, like I said, you're going to be running around on probably the Omni-Mechs will be doing most of the heavy work, and this is going to be still following behind, sort of like your second line mechs. Just the fact that it's not an Omni, it still carries a decent amount of firepower and damage. So the potential with this thing is either 20 or 45? See, 23, 45. So, and if you get in closer, you can throw in the SRM for your scatter shot for crit hunting for the most part. But when you do get in close, the LRM-20 and the SRM-4 will be your crit hunters for the most part. The Gauss rifle and the ER large will be your helping ripping off the armor. The other ones are just going to be 2 points or 5 point, or however that's going to scatter out to be your damage output when you hit. And you might get lucky with a 16 or a 20 point shot, which does help rip some of the armor off. But just kind of bank on doing a 12 output with your LRM-20. And on average, you're going to get 2 or 3 of those SRM-4s to hit too. So it's like by that time you're hoping that someone's already got a lot of the armor ripped off your target, and you're just following in. Who's going, okay, I'm the guy that comes in last and does cleanup type of deal. And it'd be really interesting is this: you had human TRO or something with this mech pilot, is one of their skills that allow them to up their chances of doing better crit hunting. So yeah, that's kind of how I look at it. Now, there's been in the past where before this mech showed up on the battlefield as an actual design, we did run the Orion IIC. Let's see, this one. We basically had a 2 ER larges. It had an SRM-6 Streak, LBX-10, an LRM-15, and an ER medium laser and a flamer. That was a design we ran around with for quite a bit of time before we really started looking at running with the actual 2C model. And that one worked out pretty decently too. Still, it's like with the original, you had the AC-10. We just swapped it out for an LBX-10 for your shotgun effect. You had your Streak for your crit hunting also. So you had 2 weapon systems as your crit hunter. And the LRM-15 was basically kind of a direct swap out, for weapon systems. And an ER medium laser was, because you had, before the original had 2 medium lasers, 1 in each arm. So just ER mediums work out pretty decently. Now, something you might have considered is converting one of those ER larges for more like 2 pulse lasers instead, or give it 4 more ER medium lasers or 3 ER medium lasers and another heat sink. Go that route so you're able to bang away at shorter ranges with 7-point shotters. So that was something we always thought about, played around with, but once the original design came to 2C, it was like, okay, we'll just run with that one instead, and just have to work around the obstacles with the 2 ER larges. But other than that, it's not a bad mech. It's worth looking at and throwing it on the battlefield as a decent mech, especially if you're running a Clan Wolf organization. So that's pretty much it. That's what the Orion IIC. There is no other variants per se. Well, there is. Just say there's the Orion IIC Burton. This one has the 2 ER larges, swapped the SRM launcher for the Streak 15 launcher, and it has an ATM-3 Gauss rifle has been swapped for a HAG 20, and it does use an XL engine and it has jump jets and active probe. So that's the one variant, but really that's just a custom variant that's been seen on the battlefield before. And then they have the Mech Warrior versions that you can run with, but we really won't talk about those. So other than that, that's pretty much when it comes to the Orion IIC. Worth taking out on the battlefield, worth trying, worth playing with. So give it a shot, see if you like it or not. If you have, let me know your experience with it. And we'll see you in the next one. Hellcracks out.